Whoa, buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday. As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed. Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
Michael Dukes Show.
The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
It's my rifle, it's my gun, this is for fun, it's for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this your favorite radio station and or FM translator, and live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to our audio-only live stream, which is up and running right now, or links to our social media sites, including Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble, where we simulcast the show each and every day here on the Big Dukes Network. I mean, it's really not big, but you know, it is what it is. And we're doing our thing here Friday, of course, our favorite day of the week, where we get a chance to talk about our favorite topic. Yes, our favorite topic, firearms and gun rights and everything else. We're about to be joined by David Codrea, who is kind of he's like the grandpappy of gun writing and common sense. And I mean, I've been following David for 25 years almost, and it's been he does amazing work. We're going to talk with him here in just a second. Quick note on the weather: -1 degree here on top of the world in beautiful Homer, Alaska. 6 below up in Anchorage. This cold snap is really kind of crispy. Big weather watch for the southeast Fairbanks area. Wind chills as low as 60 below, with wind gusts up to 45 miles per hour. Also in the Mat-Su, very cold, 45 below in the Mat-Su. And if you're out in Delta Junction, again, 60 to 65 below with dangerous wind chills. You might want to throw a hat on or something, hat, gloves, coat. Set yourself on fire. I don't know exactly what you need to do, but it's going to be cold out there. So I just wanted to make you aware of it as we go through. All right, let's jump into it here and get things going on. David Codrea has been waiting in the wings. You know him from the waronguns.com. Used to be waronguns.blogspot.com. That's how long we've been doing this, back in the Blogspot days. David Codrea joins us today, and it feels like we're going to be going a little bit down memory lane. Good morning, David. How are you this morning, my friend?
Michael, it's always nice to join with you.
It's always good to have you, my friend. I'm honored to have you on the program, as always. Thank you for being a part of it. So, David, for those who don't know about what you've done, I mean, you were the journalist that really broke the Gunwalker scandal, what was called Operation Fast and Furious. And it seems like in one of your latest pieces, it seems like it's Monday all over again, right? We're kind of repeating some of the same mantras. And I'm talking about your latest piece in AmmoLand, where the New York Times and others are hand-wringing over this 50 caliber ammunition thing down in Mexico, where this student discovered that cartels have been using 50 caliber ammunition that came from GASP, Lake City Armory, one of the largest ammo manufacturers on the planet. And surprise, surprise, they're trying to blame Americans. This is This really has some tones of it. It's got Fast and Furious tones written all over it, right?
Yeah, it's deja vu all over again. Just point of clarification. It was, we don't want to leave out the name of Mike Vanderboe, the late Mike Vanderboe,
Absolutely.
who was actually the first on his Sipsey Street Irregulars blog to report on some chat that was going on a site called Cleanup ATF, which was run by some, they call them dissident. They were ATF agents who were sick and tired of waste, abuse, corruption, and fraud. And they had a guy with the handle One Desert Rat who posted that word is that 500 guns have been walked to Mexico. And this was, we tied this in. Mike and I were longtime friends, and we partnered on this as a reporting team. We developed sources, whistleblowers, and basically started putting together the story and begging the Congress and begging the media to notice this story and get involved with this. And what's going on now is exactly the same type of tactics that were used pre-Fast and Furious to try to gin up sentiment among the American people for further gun controls here due to crime in Mexico. And they're using the exact same lies.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem, and these lies prove to be effective. I mean, for folks who don't remember, this is where the ATF co-opted gun dealers across the border and said to them, hey, you really need to do a service to your country and work with us on this, and we're going to have you sell all these guns to people. And I know they may look shady and everything else, but don't worry, we got you. We're going to follow these guns and just do what we say and sell them the guns, no questions asked. And then, of course, later on, the same ATF threw these gun dealers under the bus, even though a lot of the gun dealers are like, wait, this is like the 7th gun we've sold to this guy in a week. Maybe we should stop this. And they're like, oh, no, you're doing the right thing. And then, of course, later they came back and said those evil gun dealers were just running amok and selling guns to gangbangers and people who were obviously not qualified. I mean, it was a hit piece from one side to the other.
Well, what this new impetus towards resurrecting old lies is purposely missing. These are lies of omission. Just the fact that first of all, yeah, you said Lake City, is such a big producer, and it totally leaves out the American government's lawful sales to the government of Mexico, and then it totally ignores the immense corruption that takes place in the Mexican military and the Mexican police. There's an entire cartel, the Los Zetas, that started out as a protection arm, I believe, of the Gulf cartel down there. And they decided, we don't need to be, contractors for these guys. We can strike out on our own and be our own cartel. And these guys were ex-military, ex-police. And you see the level of corruption. I read a story for Firearms News, almost a year ago, about how Mexico's top cop was in the pocket of the cartels, and he was taking bribes. And this is the guy responsible for, prosecuting ordinary Mexicans if they catch them with guns. And he in fact is enabling all of this cartel violence. And what's, I guess, unavoidable is a conclusion that you can't be in the government in Mexico if the cartels don't want you there. I mean, they've just proven they can reach out and touch someone anywhere they want. This is why we have Americans sheltering in place down there. Although why you'd want to go down there and be a tourist is beyond me anyway. But besides the point on that, you can't be a top Mexican official unless the cartel is okay with you being there, because if they don't want you there, they're going to take you out. And the corruption is just endemic. It's just part of the system. And then they turn around and they want to sue American gun manufacturers. But what you're seeing is weaponry that gets into cartel hands that are either transferred from corrupt military and law enforcement officials. A lot of the stuff comes up south of the border. You start talking about grenades, you start talking about belt-fed machine guns. These aren't things you can get in an American gun store. And one other lie that I talked about in my article that I see resurrected, they say 80% of the guns in Mexico that are used by criminals come from the United States. Well, first of all, that lie was exposed 10 years ago. And what it really is about is that they were saying that 80% of the guns reported by the Mexican authorities for tracing, which is a very different number than the totality of all guns that have been collected from crime scenes. And the fact that they are selective in terms of what they send back for tracing shows to me intent and shows to me collusion.
Well, and really, we should get into those numbers because, I mean, that's an astonishing component of it. When they say 80% of the weapons seized in Mexico came from the U.S., but then you go on to talk about it. When you break it down, you talk about they confiscated 305,000 weapons, which they then said was just a fraction of those used in Mexico by criminals. So if it's a fraction, we're talking about obviously millions of guns, if it's a fraction of that. And then they only, of those 305,000, they only turned over to trace 12,000 guns. So you've got millions of guns, you turn over 12,000, and you say that 80% of those traced came from the U.S. I mean, it is the sloppiest of it's basically Fed slop, right? I mean, they're just trying to feed you a line and they expect you to buy it. It's a nugget of truth wrapped up in a lie or an obfuscation. And that's how we're doing journalism apparently today.
But unfortunately, the average American who's not tuned into stuff that I write and stuff that you preach on this program and, stuff that comes from other people in the Second Amendment defense community, the average American just buys into it. They see, well, this is common sense, gun safety laws. And they don't realize what these really are. These are citizen disarmament laws. And you can trace it back from the beginning quotes from the founders of the gun control movement to see where they want to go. And that's total gun confiscation. And you see this playing out in all the blue states. You see this playing out in New Mexico, where they're bringing out a slew of laws. You see this in Colorado. You see this in Minnesota. Tim Walz. He wants you to register your semi-autos that he'll let you keep, and then you have to agree to warrantless searches.
Right. Oh no, that's a whole story for today later on. I'm sure that it's the madness that continues across this country. The whole Lake City thing, and this 50 caliber kerfluffle. I mean, I don't see people walking around with a 50 cal stuffed in their pants, just going willy-nilly, concealed carrying it or anything else. And I can't imagine the number of deaths attributed specifically to a 50 cal is outrageous. But what they're looking for is it just shows again that they're just looking to gen up the fear, right? I mean, they're looking to gen up the hysteria around this and make people clutch their pearls to give them more justification to then sue the gun makers and manufacturers. And at this point, the accessory dealers, because this is another thing. If we can attack the supply line for the ammunition, you can have as many guns as you want, because if you don't have the ammunition to use them, they're just glorified clubs, right?
Yeah. And I don't have the article pulled up in front of me, Michael, to see, but I think I cited the number of murders that took place in this country with the 50 BMG, and it is just minuscule. It is tiny. It's statistically absolutely insignificant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, when you look at the overall numbers from the Department of Justice, as far as, gun homicides already, let alone, just separating it out to 50 BMG. If you look at it from the gun homicides, if there's 15,000 homicides in the country, the long guns account for usually less than 500 of all long guns, long, from the 22 caliber, squirrel rifle all the way up to a hunting rifle, let alone 50 caliber BMGs. It is a vanishingly small number, which we've pointed out time and time again here. And it's just astonishing. I want to continue to talk about this, and I want to take it off on a little bit of a different track when we return, because between the ammunition component and the part that you mentioned about the corruption in the Mexican military and the collusion with the U.S. government, there's another track that's rarely talked about in this whole kind of fast and furious world. David Codrea is our guest. We're going to continue with him here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show continues. We got more coming up. Don't go anywhere. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Don't forget, you can always come out and visit us on Facebook during the show. We'll be hanging out with David in the chat room during the commercial break, asking him questions and just saying hi. We'll return in just a moment with Firearms Friday. Back with more right after this.
Tune in Friday for our weekend entertainment and movie streaming review with our guest critic, Willie Waffle. That's actually his real name. Really? That's his real name? Man, his parents must have hated him. The Michael Dukes Show.
Okay, we're in the break with David Codrea from waronguns.com. If you don't go out there and follow David, I check in with David at least a couple times a week just to see on his website. I don't talk to him every week, but on his website just to see what he's writing about and what's going on. And boy, I tell you, there is some amazing stuff happening out there that is it's always good to follow David and get a feel for what's happening and keeping your finger on the pulse. How are things been going, David? I don't think we've talked since Christmas, so I just want to say how's life treating you? Everything good?
Yeah, you know what? I've got nothing to complain about. My life is very good. I'm a very happy guy. I know that sometimes I come across on the internet like I've got, all these grudges that I hold and all that kind of stuff. That couldn't be further from the truth from my personal life. We live in a happy household. I don't know if you could hear in the background or not, but you just heard a 3-year-old just walk by babbling happily. And we finally got the princess tent out from behind me in my den here. So.
I was just going to say we're missing the princess tent for the for the grandchild. I mean, it's great, man. I did have to laugh when you said that because I was going to introduce you at one point as the original gun curmudgeon because it feels like sometimes David's just well, I mean, I can imagine how frustrating it gets to try and write about these things again and again and again and have people just go, oh yeah, that's nice. And then nobody's outraged at the way that we're outraged by the infringements that we see all over the place.
That touches on something. Let me, where I get most outraged is what I call profiles in apathy. And right now I've got another piece out on AmmoLand where I'm trying to raise some funds for this Lawrence DeStefano who ran Indie Guns, and he got extradited from Florida to New York. He's Letitia James has this guy in Rikers right now. And the reason they're going after him is because he will not give up the names of his customers. And so they're doing a GoFundMe page for this guy. And it's like trying to squeeze blood out of a stone to get gun owners to pony up, just $10. Okay.
Right.
Get involved. I saw the same thing when Mike Vanderboe was dying. And I was trying to get some fundraising to help out his family. And basically the way I would couch it was, don't do this because this is charity. Do this almost like this is for services rendered, because everybody gets so much free stuff and free wisdom and enjoys the benefits of what he's doing. And the bottom line is it was like just, again, squeezing blood from a stone to get people to come up with any kind of voluntary contribution for that. And that sometimes fills me up to hear, particularly when I see some of the bigger outfits, running these fundraisers that, to me are questionable, and yet they have no problem getting all kinds of donations. And, what are you going to do?
You got a link for that, Mike? What's the link? Is it in the news story at AmmoLand or?
Yeah, I can get to it. Hold on a second. Let me do this. Yeah, we're not live, so I can mess around right now on camera, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You can do what you need to do here. I'm looking for the, if you'd like to help, start here. Give, Send, Go. I found it. I found the link here on your news story. So here's the link, folks, for those out there. Here's the Give, Send, Go link for the Indie Guns right there. It just popped up in the chat room. And if you want to look at it, it's givesendgo.com/indieguns. Yeah, $10, $20, $30, whatever you feel like giving. I've been following this story about this, and it's an astonishing abuse of power. That's my take on this. Letitia James, that chick, she needs to go. Yeah, anything you can do, give, send, go to Indie Guns, 10, 20, 30, $50, whatever you got. When I get done off the show here, I'll be donating. So I hope that you guys are always part of that. All right.
I just sent you the AMOLED link in the studio chat between us.
Okay, I appreciate that. I will. I just pulled that stuff off the story. Let me link that story here as well for you guys. Let's go.
He's strapped and taking aim. You might want to take cover. Not behind those exploding barrels. The Michael Duke Show.
It is Firearms Friday, and we're talking with David Codrea from the waronguns.com. He writes for AmmoLand and Firearms News. He's written for all different kinds of firearms and Second Amendment outlets throughout the years. He was part of the team that put together the whole Fast and Furious thing, which, again, those methods seem to be successful in many ways before it was called out. And we're seeing a repeat of that now. We were just talking about this whole hubbub as the New York Times continues to wring its hands over the 50 caliber issue down in Mexico with the Lake City Armory ammunition. But David, you touched on something that I want to get back to, and that is this whole ploy of, we were just talking about ammunition and whether or not the attacks on that, and you mentioned the corruption and really the pipeline between the U.S. and Mexico for firearms was not necessarily about civilian firearms. And I want to make a connection here. We've been hearing the last couple of days, of course, about the Clintons, doing all their dog and pony show on the whole Epstein files and everything else and how they're so innocent and everything. But if you'll recall, Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, allowed the State Department over there to transfer hundreds of thousands of military-grade firearms to Mexico as part of their deal with the Mexican government. And then, of course, we discovered that there's this pipeline that goes from the Mexican government to the cartels. So when we talk about these millions of guns over there, they weren't coming from the Texas gun stores, because these guys have got belt feds. They've got full auto, ARs or M4s or M16s. They've got these are all coming from the U.S. government under Hillary Clinton as the Secretary of State, because she was in charge of ITAR and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a real connection here between that and the fact that Clinton, if you'll recall, also went really hard on the OSHA regulations against ammunition manufacturers. They tried to change the OSHA regulations to where it would have been nearly impossible to follow safety regulations for ammo storage as they manufactured ammo. I mean, there's a whole plot going on here underneath this stuff, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State, because several years back, I tried to follow up on the fact that even if ATF management in Phoenix was not directly involved in themselves smuggling or directing the smuggling of guns to be walked to Mexico, by virtue of the fact that they engineered it with a nod, wink, wink, and let these guys go, and allowed this to happen on their watch, was tantamount to aiding and abetting, which is an ITAR violation. And you don't see any of these ATF guys in prison, do you? And the fact that Hillary was then Secretary of State, I tried to find out and even put out a Freedom of Information Act request, was ATF, in fact, authorized to allow this, and or did they just do this on their own, in which case they're guilty of ITAR and violations on them. Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's the huge problem. I mean, nobody talked about and now we're getting down into the nitty gritty and the weeds, but I mean, look, if you or I committed an ITAR violation, they would come down on us like a ton of bricks. But you've got agencies blatantly violating federal law, statute, and code, and then just blasé going like, oh, well, it didn't work out the way we wanted. Sorry. You got Hillary Clinton. I mean, and just to give you guys a point, when Clinton was the Secretary of State, what they were doing, this whole Fast and Furious thing and everything else, this had to be signed off on by somebody at a high level, because you just don't allow thousands of firearms or ship military grade firearms to a military government without the sign off of or a foreign government. You don't just do that without the sign off of somebody in charge. But nobody, like you said, nobody follows up on it. Nobody, I can't find any paperwork as to who said it was okay. I mean, this is, again, the deep state run amok on these kind of things, all in an effort. This was a dog whistle, man. This was all in an effort to try and make gun owners, gun supporters look bad. It's because of you guys that all this Mexican violence is going on and these people are being killed. I mean, this was just another way to attack the Second Amendment.
And it wasn't just Fast and Furious. It was going on in other places. And I did reports on that back in the day. One guy was in Florida and he was in prison, and I was interviewing him. He was actually a prisoner, and we were corresponding back and forth with charges that there was a pipeline from Florida going to, I believe it was Honduras or Guatemala. It's been a long time. There was another gun FFL in Portland, Oregon, who was getting pressure by ATF to do exactly the same thing that ATF was pressuring gun stores to do in the Southwest. And I could not get this person to come forward because as an FFL, he was, just totally dependent on, ATF's goodwill in order to maintain his livelihood. And, I had the feelers out, and I'm pretty convinced that it was a valid story, but without a whistleblower willing to come forward and put himself on the line and get the protection that he would need, you just can't force that issue. But there are a lot of indicators that what happened in Phoenix wasn't a one-off.
Why does this keep happening, David? In your mind, as you look at this as a journalist, and you see this, and now this whole story from the Times on Lake City and the 50 cal. Why does this keep happening? Is it because it's effective? Is it because it works, even though they get caught with it? Is that what's going on here?
They call themselves progressives, right? But all of their ideas are old. All of their ideas are tyrannical and old, and they keep doing the same thing over and over again. And every once in a while, they'll dust something off. Years ago, we had the American Hunters and Shooters Association and various AstroTurf gun groups pretending to be gun owner groups and representing gun owner groups, and what they really were is they were false fronts for gun control organizations. And now you see it resurrected again, 97%. Okay, and they keep dusting off these bad old ideas because they understand that the public's first of all knowledge about this issue isn't very deep, and that they can keep dusting it off and presenting it again. And for most of the people that are hearing it again, they either forgot about it or weren't aware of what happened last time. They think it's a brand new idea. Oh, this is common sense. We ought to be doing this. And they continue to rely on that. They continue to get away with it. Probably the reason that they can, number one, the Democrat politicians who want to disarm us are liars, and also the mainstream media. Okay, they just continue to repeat the same lie over and over and over again. And like I said, when I brought up the 80% figure again, that was from a media outlet that's reporting this. And one reports it, and now all of a sudden a narrative has been created, and everybody jumps on board and parrots the narrative. And you can pretty much trace how what CNN is talking about is what MS Now is talking about, is what the New York Times is talking about. And it's the same theme and the same meme over and over and over again. And the average American sitting at home goes, "Oh, what do you need a machine gun for?" When you're talking about semi-autos, and they just don't get the disconnect.
Right, exactly. So that leads me to the question then, because I do want to talk about your latest piece on Cicada. before we run out of the hour here. But let's finalize this whole thing with the Lake City and the Fast and Furious and everything else, and their reuse, their retreading of the same narrative over and over and over again. Because again, you're right. The public, generally speaking, has very thin knowledge, and they have a really short attention span. So they can't remember, it's like a freaking canary. They can't remember what happened 5 minutes ago. But I guess the major question here is we see all this, we look at Bruin, we look at Miller, we look at Heller, we look at all these other things that are going on, the post-COVID surge in firearms ownership and everything else. I guess I'll ask you, David Codrea, as our resident expert, are we winning in the gun culture war? Or are we taking ground? Are we holding steady? I mean, where do you think we are in this overall landscape here?
Ask me after the midterms. We're back and forth, back and forth. What they're doing right now is prep work. They're getting everybody, kind of prepped for when the Democrats, regain power and the Republicans blow it by snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, which it seems in many cases they're on a track to do exactly that. If they win the presidency in 28, then they control who gets to sit on the Supreme Court. And at that point, Katie barred the door because, we have Bruin. You don't think that a Democrat appointed Supreme Court is going to reverse itself? Supreme Court has reversed itself before. Okay. Right, right. What was Brown versus Board of Education? Supreme Court reverses itself.
Yeah. No, you're right. This is a constant battle, and this is why I often say that we should never grow weary in well-doing, because even when it feels like we're ahead or looks like we're ahead, we cannot stop the press. We cannot stop moving forward, and we cannot stop this fight overall. Rob does make a great comment in the chat room. He said, with all this talk about Hillary Clinton, I feel like we should specify that both Michael and David are not depressed, and they both have had their brakes examined recently. I am not suicidal. I just want to put that out there. I don't feel like David's suicidal either, right, David? I mean, just for the record, we're not depressed or suicidal, and we both had our brakes checked recently.
I don't know if you can see or not, but there's no rafters up there, so I haven't worn a necktie in a while.
Yeah, can't hang myself from anything, and that's. We joke about that, but that's a whole show in and of itself. Quite honestly, the Clinton list. David, we're coming up on the break here. Any final thoughts on this whole retread of the Fast and Furious thing, and just the reuse? Anything before we go to break here?
I think that the only final thought I have on that is to the listeners and the viewers on this. So when you hear this come up, do what you can to correct the information within your spheres of influence, because it just can't be a couple talking heads out there, yelling at passing cars like I try to do. We need to, have everybody be a force multiplier and, help spread the word.
All right. David Codrea, our guest. The Michael Duke Show continues. We've got more coming up. We're going to continue with him here in just a moment. When we get back, we're going to talk about the new and improved ATF. That's what we're being told, right? We got this Second Amendment executive order. We got everything else. It's going to be the new and improved ATF. And they're pointing at Robert Cicada as the new. This guy is going to be great. We're going to get David's take on that, and maybe his thoughts on some of the commentary post Minneapolis as well. We'll be back. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. It is Firearms Friday.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we're in the break right now. Again, appreciate David Codrea for coming on here. Let me see. Whoops, I was just going to repost that. Where we go? Here it is. Give, send, go. Just going to repost the link here for the donation that we were just talking about for Indie Guns. Brian just said he just donated. if you got $5, you got $10, you got $20, you got some coffee money laying around, give, send, go for Indie Guns. And again, the story is this guy was a gun a parts manufacturer in Florida. And the state of New York decided to go after him for selling kits or pieces to people who lived in New York. And he refused to give up the names of those customers, and they extradited him out of Florida. I mean, the only thing worse would have been out of Texas. Out of Florida, they extradited him to New York, and there he sits in a prison cell, right, David?
Yeah, I don't understand still why Florida didn't fight that. It just seems to me that kind of goes counter to the image they present as being, a pro-gun Republican gunshine state. But one of the things I'd like to mention about that Give, Send, Go account is that, and my article was all about accountability, because people were concerned, if I donate, how do we know that this is on the up and up and who these guys are? And I tried to explain that, there's a gag order out on this, and that people coming forward could be subpoenaed themselves. So these guys essentially have whistleblower protection, the same as Mike and I did with Fast and Furious. I will protect my sources, and you're going to have to hang me from the rafters before I'll, tell who they are. But you take a look at the Give, Send, Go account, and you can see what they're spending the money that they've collected on, the small amount of money they've collected on so far compared to what they need. But the guy had to get some stuff from the commissary, like toothpaste and stuff like that, or they needed, some more money to keep his website domain going. Okay. And so this is the kind of stuff, he's not out there buying steak and lobster dinners and $1 million mansions.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, this is, look, I don't have a problem with this. I don't have a problem throwing a $20 bill on something like this. I don't feel, and I'm not even going to question what, I'm going to trust them to believe that they're going to be spending it on keeping him free. You know what I mean? I'm not going to worry too much about it. But again, if you can go to givesendgo.com/IndieGuns, the link's in the chat room there. You can donate 5, 10, 15, $20, whatever it is that you got. And that would definitely help out, because it's an egregious, the whole thing is just such an egregious overreach by government. And again, Letitia James, for those of you who aren't following along at home, the same Letitia James that tried to disincorporate the NRA and everything else. This is the gal that's out there doing all the work against gun owners across the country, not just restricted to New York, but across the country. I mean, this is a chilling thing, right, David? You're in a completely different state, abiding by the laws, doing what you need to do. You think everything's groovy. Next thing you know, you got people showing up at your door to arrest you and send you to some other state. This is a fear tactic. She wants people to be afraid across the country of what she could potentially do.
Yeah, and it gets back to me in terms, well, hold on a second. We're on break, so I can get up a second. I'll be right back. I want to take something off my wall. I'll show it to you.
All right, David Codrea, our guest, waronguns.com. That's where you go to find him on it and do everything else. Oh, look at this.
This right here is a magazine. That's Mike Vanderboe, and that's a 3% patch.
Yeah.
And what Mike did in states like Connecticut that were banning magazines, we had a program called Toys for Totalitarians, and Mike would smuggle magazines into the state and distribute them to people, and just as an act of defiance and as an act of civil disobedience. And what I just held up was one of the last of the magazines that I got from Mike, and I so treasure it that I put it in that shadow box that you saw with his picture and with the 3 per patch, and that hangs on the wall in my den. One of my proud possessions.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I have one of Mike's 3 per patches here that I got. I mean, early on, because I was following Mike, way back in the day. And in fact, I think that was originally when you came to my attention, was you and Mike worked together on that. And it's one of my more prized possessions for sure, because Mike had a lot of great. I mean, the guy was a genius. He had a lot of great ideas. He had a heart, and he was willing to put his money where his mouth was. And I appreciated that for sure.
Boy, you think I'm a curmudgeon?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. You could definitely read that. Between the lines. I never did get a chance to interview Mike, but you could read that between the lines that he was a little grumpy about what was going on and willing to be mad about it. So for sure. All right. Well, we're 12 seconds out here, so we're about to rejoin the radio. So let's get back to it here. Folks, please like and share this show. Like and follow. Do all the YouTube stuff. Let's get more people involved. It is Firearms Friday, the Michael Duke Show.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
You know, if we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Yeah, I mean, I always check the tag to make sure that it's a protection gun and not a murder gun. I look right there on the tag, right below the caliber. It'll tell me. I'm sure David does too. David Codrea, our guest, waronguns.com. We welcome him back to the program. One final segment here for this hour. David, we kept hearing, I've been using this phrase a lot lately, it feels like, but I'm hopeful but not optimistic. And that kind of encapsulated my feeling on voting during the last presidential election. Obviously, President Trump, for those of us who are in the Second Amendment and on the conservative side, was the better choice, the lesser of two evils, so to speak. But we were concerned about his previous track record with the Second Amendment and everything else. Of course, he came out with his Second Amendment executive orders, and he was talking a big game about how we were going to do all this good stuff. And yet there's not a lot going on there. And in fact, even we'll get to this Minneapolis thing here in a second. That's a whole nother thing, but his new and improved ATF is not working quite as we said. They've got a new head of the ATF that's being, that they're installing, this Robert Cicada. And you said he's still a no-win scenario for gun owners, the new head of the ATF. Tell me about this.
Yeah, he's been getting kudos from some of our national gun rights leaders, and the bottom line is this is a guy who's going to be in charge of an agency that's unconstitutional. No matter that he might be better than David Chipman, he is still going to be in charge of an agency that infringes on the right of the people to keep and bear arms. And so we're treated to some hyperbole about how the guy's a true friend of the Second Amendment, which I remember Wayne LaPierre said about Harry Reid. It just, look, he's the best we're going to get. I can't argue with that, but he's still going to be in charge of unconstitutional infringements on the right to keep and bear arms. You see the Justice Department arguing, against not registering NFA type suppressors and things like that. What do you think is going to happen with these new laws they're trying to pass in West Virginia and Kentucky, where they're saying that the state has the right, according to GCA 68, to be the distributor of machine guns to its citizens? Okay, and you don't think the Justice Department's going to be fighting that? And so the bottom line is that we keep hearing about this Second Amendment task force. The Second Amendment task force doesn't have anyone on it who is an advisor, who is part of just the activism community. Every one of them are government workers dependent on the administration for their paychecks and their advancement and their promotions. So you're not going to see anybody shaking any cages over there. And so the bottom line is what you see the administration doing is things that are bipolar. One day you'll see them say, well, Harmeet Dillon is now, got this Second Amendment civil rights, deal going on, and she's sending off warnings to places like California where the sheriff's department is discriminating in terms of concealed carry permits, and they're doing this and that. And then the next day you see them, proposing some rule or arguing some argument in a court case that goes directly contravenes the interests of the Second Amendment community. And I maintain that if you had these subject matter experts as advisors to this Second Amendment task force, you would be able to avoid many of the disconnects, many of the reversals, many of the administration mucky mucks like Janine Pirro sending out warnings if we catch you with a gun in Washington D.C., you're going to be it. I don't care if you have a permit or not. And she never apologized. She came on with this hollow, kind of smirking non-apology. And
right.
The bottom line is people forget that this is a woman who, earlier in her career as a Westchester DA was joining up with New Yorkers Against Gun Violence to do gun buyback. She was out there crusading for a ban on quote unquote assault weapons. So you got to be careful. Yes, the administration is better than Kamala Harris would have been. No question about that. That's the wrong argument. Okay. The right argument is they can use their bully pulpit to educate the electorate on what the Second Amendment means and to defend it. And if they had the right advisors, they would be able to avoid a lot of the missteps. And one thing, and I know I'm talking long, but I'll shut up. But, I've had people call the magazine and write the magazine, and we're getting rid of our subscription until you fire this guy because he's out there bad-mouthing Trump. And no, I'm not. What I'm doing is I want Trump and the Republicans to sweep it, okay? But they're not going to if they take the fire out of the bellies of gun owners who are responsible for them being in power in the first place, and trying to raise flags and warn them, say, look, guys, you need to think these things through. Maybe before you say something stupid, talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Right. Look, my vote for Trump was not a suicide pact, right? Yeah. It wasn't that I just voted for him and I'm going to gladly go on with it. I'm going to call the balls and the strikes. If he does something good, I'm going to say, great, that was what I wanted. If he does something bad, I'm going to call it out. And I think your comment about the bipolar comment, I think is spot on, because he spoke about a good game, did all these things, and then he brought Pam Bondi up as his attorney general. And for those of you who don't know Pam Bondi's history, she was no friend of the Second Amendment in a past life. She was out there calling for age restrictions, waiting periods. She was prosecuting gun owners. Again, Janine Pirro the same way as David just pointed out. And then we see this knee-jerk reaction after the Minneapolis shooting, where the president himself gets up and says, you no guns. You shouldn't have any guns at any of these. You can't carry. Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, coming out and saying you can't bring a gun to a protest. And just, again, false misinformation. They're not enamoring themselves to the Second Amendment community. How can we support you when you are schizophrenic in your support of the Second Amendment?
And I've been at protests, Michael, where the presence of armed citizens was not only appropriate, it was necessary. I don't know, in 2010, there was that Second Amendment rally in Washington, D.C., right. And I spoke at that, and then I went across the Potomac to Gravelly Park in Virginia, where carry was legal, and spoke to a group of armed citizens. I stood up in the back of a pickup truck right after Larry Pratt gave his speech, and these guys were totally peaceful, totally peaceable. The only rowdies there were Paul Helmke of Brady, brought some of his cult members there, and they were kind of yelling at us and trying to provoke us. And you know what? You just ignore the irritants. I was at another armed protest in Oberlin, Ohio, when the city tried to do an end run around Ohio preemption law and ban guns in parks and things like that. And so some gun owners properly and appropriately showed up armed. You guys going to arrest us? Yeah, we'll rely on state law.
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy. And this has been the frustrating thing to me, because like you, I've taken some heat for my conversations or my pointing out the flaws that this president has when it comes to the support of the Second Amendment, the kind of the wishy-washy ground that he stands on this. And I think if he really wants to solidify his base and support, he needs to do something strong. To put some teeth in that Second Amendment task force, bring in some real stakeholders like people from the industry and from some of the groups like GOA or SAF or whoever, the FPC, bring these people together and have them say it instead of, putting people like Bondi in charge. Like you said, they do the one thing, They go after states that are not treating concealed carry holders well, but at the same time, they're over here allowing things like what's going on with the Florida guy with Indy Guns. It's insane.
Yeah, and to get back to Cicada for a second, in his Senate hearings, in the article I wrote about it, nobody asked him. We're being presented by different gun rights leaders that this guy's a friend of the Second Amendment. Nobody really asked him about the Second Amendment in that hearing. And one other thing, the State of the Union, I watched that whole thing. I thought, for the most part, Trump did a masterful job, particularly with the American citizens versus illegal aliens. Will you stand comment? I thought that was great. But there was not one word about the Second Amendment in his State of the Union speech. And I believe that was wrong. I believe that ignored a core part of the constituency. And I don't think that, just mentioning it and being able to say something, he would have been able to, get some, good feelings going around gun owners, because turning out the vote is critical, as Virginia is testament to.
Yeah, well, that's a whole mess right there we could get into. David Codrea, down to less than 2 minutes here. I'll give you final thoughts for today as to where we're at, what we need to do, what's your exhortation to the listeners, what are your thoughts here?
Holy moly, there is so much we have to do. There's not enough time in the day, and this is I guess where I get to people who make that excuse. Well, the antis, they can bust people in because they don't have to work. Well, you know what? I've worked all my life. I've raised kids. Michael, same with you. And yet we have still found time to do what it is we do to help advance the ball down the field. And it doesn't, it just has to be what your talent happens to be. Maybe write a letter to the editor. Maybe tell some friends about this program. Maybe make a $10 donation to Lawrence DeStefano's GoFundMe page. Maybe, get somebody to join. Maybe join yourself, your state gun rights group. I just did a post on War on Guns where this one gun organization, they friended me, so I friended them back, and I noticed they had fewer Twitter followers than I do. They're an entire state organization, and they have one of the highest household gun ownership rates in the country. And what the heck, it's right. Like, why aren't people joining?
Yeah, what's going on? Well, we need to get up off our rusty dusties and not grow weary in well-doing, because this is a battle that's never going to be won. It just has to continually be fought. That's what we need to acknowledge. This is a fight that we're going to have to keep fighting no matter what. And one of the biggest warriors out there is David Codrea from waronguns.com. David, thank you so much for coming on board. I really appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for being part of it today.
Thank you so much, Michael. Take care.
Hold the line for a second. All right, folks, we're out of time. Hour 2 dead ahead. The Michael Duke Show. Yep, David, I'll tell you, it's okay. It's all good. It's frustrating, but I think that's something we have to acknowledge. This fight is never going to be over.
No.
It's just, because authoritarians are going to authoritate. That's what they do. And anybody who has their independence or has the ability to resist is a threat to authoritarians. And unfortunately, our government, as great as it is, as great as this country is, our government has a large swath of authoritarians in it that want to do whatever it is that they want to do. And if we stand up against them, then we're the threat. And that's why they've been fighting against the Second Amendment for so long. Final thoughts from you today.
Yeah, why you don't see an exodus of moderate Democrats when they're pushing these radical people like Mamdani and Ilhan Omar and Raish Tlaib, or whatever the heck her name is, Angeli, whatever, Ocasio-Cortez, whatever her name is, Alexandria, and you see all these out-and-out commies, for God's sake, and yet you don't see a mass exit of the Democrat Party. You see people my age out at No Kings rallies holding up No Kings signs, and it's like, are you people out of your minds? Do you realize the gift that you're turning your nose up at, and you're not only spitting on it, you're destroying it for the rest of us and for posterity. And I think we're in the age of madness right now. Yeah. And boy, I sure hope I'm wrong about my pessimism about the upcoming midterms. I sure hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm really concerned. What we're seeing, and again, the no kings thing, that's like the liberal white guilt on display, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. And, they hate this country. They feel bad about our success and everything else. And Trump is not doing us any favors on the whole midterm thing. I hope that we're able to swing it around, but I, like you, am hopeful but not optimistic. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm hopeful that it'll happen. But, based on everything that's going on, I don't know. Unless we pull it out, unless we're able to, unless we're able to reach into that middle ground that's not Republican, that's not Democrat, that's more independent, unless we're able to reach those people, we're going to be in tough times for sure.
Well, I wish our politicians would use their bully pulpits to educate their constituents instead of just, when you talk to the gun owners, you tell them what you want to hear, and then when you talk to everybody else, you just ignore the gun issue altogether.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing, is educating people instead of just telling them what you want to hear so you can go back and be reelected and get back in power. And that, again, goes back to the authoritarianism and the sociopathy of politicians and everything else. That's,
and of course, if you don't tell them what they want to hear, they write your editor and say, fire this guy.
Yeah, exactly. No, I've gotten the hate mail. Trust me, I've gotten the emails. And how dare you talk about Trump? He's the greatest thing since sliced white bread. I mean, he's the second coming of Christ. And why are you? I'm like, dude, I mean, come on. There's only one guy that was perfect on this world, and he's been gone a while. So anyway, David, it's always great to talk with you, my friend. Thanks for what you do. Thanks for fighting the fight. And thanks for bringing us that Indie Guns thing. We'll make sure that everybody gets a chance to donate here.
Thank you, Michael, very much. Take care.
Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon. David Codrea, again, waronguns.com. That's where you go to find his writings and everything else. Again, if you have a $5 bill or anything else, you can post it up right now and go over to that Give, Send, Go and donate to Indie Guns because they're going to need it, man. I mean, and good on this guy for not giving up his customers. But I mean, we should not, we should not do it. It's called hyperbole, Fat Ray. Fat Ray just is like, I've never heard anybody compare him to Christ, but I have heard Michael Dukes do it. Well, I've seen it on the internet. I've seen comments on Facebook about how he's almost as great as Christ. So, I mean, I'm not stretching too far here, but it is hyperbolic. It's reducto redictum, right? Reduction to the ridiculous. That's the argument. No, I don't think that you believe that he is, but I'm just saying, don't say anything bad about him, because then people make comments to you about how bad you are. Okay. I mean, like I said, I will call out the balls and strikes as I see them. Yeah. or the Antichrist. Is the or the Antichrist, one of the two. It goes both ways, because I've seen that too. So reducto is not a fallacy. Reducto ridiculum is basically, it's a rhetorical device that brings everything down to ridiculousness to show how silly it is. But okay, man, okay, look, I supported him. I voted for him. I don't like what he's done on the Second Amendment stance. Can you say you do? Can you say that you love what he's been doing for the Second Amendment? Right? I'm just, you sure, you say you can say you love what he's done for the Second Amendment? Okay. I mean, that's problematic in and of itself, between the bump stock ban and the taking the guns without due process, and now you can't have guns at a protest. Has he done anything? Yeah. Bump stock bans. I mean, it's the first thing that comes to mind. That's a hard thing that has actually been done. I'm not allowing for the delay. Apparently there's a big enough delay that, okay, well, we won't worry about it. We're not going to get all wrapped up in that. I got other things to talk about. We're going to continue here in just a moment. The Michael Dukes Show, Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Let's do this.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere. I don't understand. Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show. I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday. As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Not be infringed. Firearms
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
It's my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fun, and it's for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Oh, yeah, baby. Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, my friends. How are you? Are you ready to jump in with both feet and get to it? Firearms Friday is our one day a week where we dedicate it to the Second Amendment and talk about gun rights and more. Today is no different. We just finished up with David Codrea from the waronguns.com. He writes for Firearms News and for AmmoLand, does some great stuff out there. And if you haven't followed him, you're missing out. So feel free to go over there and check it out. Before we get too far into it here, I'll give you your daily weather update here. 1 below on top of the world in Homer, Alaska. 6 below up in Anchorage. I saw somebody say that it was 21 below up in the Matsu area, 45 below in Fairbanks, as well, 28 below in Fox, 12 degrees below zero in Wasilla Fishhook. A little cool out there. Weather warnings. Well, they do have still cold weather advisories for Fairbanks and the Denali boroughs, 60 below, potentially 65 with wind chill, 45 below in the Matsu with the wind chill as well. And again 65 below in the southeast Fairbanks area, which is Delta Junction and eastern Alaska Range north of Trims Camp. So windy, cold, and winter is still here. That's what it's all about. All right. So anyway, just wanted to give you the thing. 1 above in Seldovia. Look at that. It's the hot spot it's just right across the bay for me. Hot spot here in the state. So it's good. 23 below in the Nilchik. You guys can have that, man. I don't need that, David. That's just fine. I'm 1 below and I'm just fine. Thank you. All right. Yeah, big storm. Somebody just asked, are we opening the phone lines? We need to know if Fred survived the blizzard in Rhode Island. And that does bring us over to one of my favorite parts of the show, and that is Open Line, Open Gun Forum for Firearms Friday. 319-527-3864. Phone lines are open. And if you want to participate today, I would love to hear from you. Feel free to give us a ring and talk about anything that's firearms related. If you want to talk about what David and I were just talking about, if you want to call and argue with me about something gun related or the Trump's cabinet doing bad things or good things or whatever, I'd love to hear from you. It's a good day today to hang out and talk about firearms stuff. So feel free to ring us up and discuss it. There's no such thing, remember, as a dumb gun question. There's no such thing as a dumb gun question. So feel free to do it. Jeffrey just said Jeffrey's up in Fairbanks. Looks like I'm going to be a little tardy to the salt mine today. Yeah, it's a little crispy up there, man. And between all the snow and now the cold weather, I do not envy you guys up in Fairbanks right now. Some good news on the NFA front. That's the National Firearms Act front. Some good news. Of course, you'll recall that when the One Big Beautiful Bill passed, that there was a component of it that essentially removed the tax for suppressors and short-barreled rifles from the National Firearms Act registry. Now, that's important, as we've talked about here on the show before, because there was already a court case challenging. This is back in 1937. There was a court case challenging the constitutionality of the NFA, and that was U.S. v. Szynski. And at the time, the justices decided that it was legal because of the power of taxation, that essentially it was a tax regime, that it didn't have anything to do with infringing on rights. It had to do with Congress's authority and power to tax items, and that's how they could justify it. Well, since the NFA has now had the tax for suppressors and SBRs shredded off of it, that has left a big gaping hole in the legal argument for the continuation of the NFA. Now there is a third lawsuit challenging the NFA. There's already two others. And this third lawsuit has got some horsepower behind it. Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, JPFO, leads the charge alongside the Buckeye Firearms Association, the American Suppressor Association Foundation, Meridian Ordnance, and two individuals, TJ Roberts and Zachary Cockrell. They're taking on heavy hitters in the federal government, naming the BATF&E and its acting director, Daniel Driscoll, as well as the Department of Justice and Attorney General Pam Bondi as defendants. The core of their argument is that the NFA was originally built as a tax law. When registration was required on suppressors and firearms, JPFO said it was justified only because of the $200 tax provision in the NFA. Now that taxes have been eliminated, there really cannot be any further registration requirement. The legal team from the DC firm of Cooper and Kirk argues that the federal government is overstepping its constitutional authority. And that is awesome. I mean, this is what I've been waiting for, quite honestly. I mean, I had hoped that they would have just removed the NFA from the, just removed it with the One Big Beautiful Bill. And of course, there were provisions in there to remove suppressors and things from it. But that was struck down by the Senate parliamentarian, which why they let her run amok in that way, I don't know. But this is almost as good because, again, it's very clear if you read the decision in Szynski and you understand what's going on, that this gives them a huge lever against this, that this gives them a huge way to basically say this whole thing is an infringement, an unconstitutional infringement, and it should be gone. And I'm super excited about that. JPFO elaborated on the inherent taxing component of the NFA. They sent a message over to Tom Knighton at Bearing Arms. Jews for the Preservation of it was justified only because the NFA was justified only because the $200 tax provision in the NFA. Now that the taxes have been eliminated, there can really not be any further registration requirement. The language in our lawsuit makes that clear. Quote, while the NFA's regulation may have been permissible in support of the statute's taxes on making and transferring firearms, That justification no longer remains for items whose making and transfer are no longer taxed. To the extent that the NFA imposes requirements on making, transferring, receiving, possessing, or otherwise using untaxed firearms, it cannot be justified as an exercise of any other Article 1 power. Accordingly, the NFA is unconstitutional as to the untaxed firearms. So excited about this. I really, and again, this is lawsuit number 3. I don't know how many lawsuits they could feel like that they can pull together. That this is going to be good. This is going to be good, and we'll see what happens from here. All right. What else? Oh, David mentioned Tim Walz. He mentioned Tim Walz and his new gun control scheme. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to this or seen what's going on with this, but Tim Walz, not the brightest tool in the shed. I mean, obviously has been pushing for gun control since he ran for office. You know, although his whole, who else remembers Tim Walz's campaign ad with a shotgun where he was like, he obviously didn't even know what end to point up hardly. Who else remembers that? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Anybody else remember that? Don't worry, I'm here to protect your guns. And then, of course, ever since he decided to run for office, he's now like, oh man, he is. It's crazy, and it's amazing how he used that as part of his platform. How he's pro-gun, but you know, he became anti-gun. You know, the next week kind of thing. Anyway, he has unveiled his package of gun control measures this week. He hasn't had much luck with these in recent years, but he figures that maybe the shooting at the Catholic school in Minneapolis, maybe the Renee Good and the Alex Preddy thing will give him some traction. I don't know. But it's interesting that there's a lot of folks who are now lashing out at Tim Walz over this. In a Reddit thread in Minnesota, reacting to the announcement of his new plan on, which again included, you can have your semi-autos, you just have to register them, and then you basically have to agree to warrantless searches. That's his plan. You can have it, but you could keep your Second Amendment rights with caveats, but you have to give up your Fourth Amendment rights. I mean, it's a crazy, crazy thing. Anyway, this Reddit thread, one user summed up the frustration pretty bluntly. He said, "What the hell, Tim?" Another called the proposal an amazingly bad and tone-deaf idea. One commenter wrote, "Blue states disarming citizens in the face." This is, oh my God, I love this. This comment wins the internet for today. Blue states disarming their citizens in the face of fascist assault is idiotic at best and collaboration at its worst. Tim Walz is actually winning people to the Second Amendment cause, right? Another said, "This is a bad call, given the attacks on Minnesota Dems leading up to the midterms." I mean, all of the sudden, all these Democrats are firm believers in the Second Amendment. They're here to... I mean, again, these are not the words of pro-gun right-wing Minnesotans. These are arguments from the left. And they are not happy with Tim Walz on it. But again, just the idea that somehow you will trade one right for another. Oh, sure, you can have your semi-autos, not really the assault weapons, but your semi-autos, right? You just got to register them and then give us permission for warrantless searches from now until the end of time. No big deal. No big deal. Oh, you're a gun owner? I don't need a warrant to come into your house. Oh, you're a gun owner? I don't need a warrant to search your car or your person. Oh, I mean, that's blatantly unconstitutional, but, that's what he's trying to do. That's what he's trying to stretch on this whole deal. I mean, tone deaf. This guy just doesn't get... Authoritarians are gonna authoritate. That is my 100% comment today on that. All right. We got more coming up. Phone lines are still open. If you want to sound off today, call in, chat about any of this stuff. 319-527-3864. Have you heard about what's going on in England? I mean, how did England ever have an empire? I mean, I've seen that question about 5 or 6 times over the last couple of days, and I agree. How in the world did they ever have an empire? I'm going to tell you about the latest coming out of the old UK. That's up next. Willie Waffle at the end of the show today, the Michael Duke Show. Back with more right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
All right. Richie said, after he sent out the shock troops during the George Floyd riots that were shooting paintballs at people standing outside on their own property, I don't think that moron tyrant is going to get too much support. Well, I mean, we'll see. Maybe he sees prison, says Greg, over all the fraud in his state. I mean, good luck. Those guys are like Teflon. I mean, they just slip. The guys who are in power, even if they're on their way out of power, I mean, the likelihood of him being, unless he's directly implicated, I would find that, I would find that ridiculous here. It's cold enough that Greg says my equipment's becoming dependent on block heaters. Yeah, welcome to Fairbanks, right? I used to love it when I was in Fairbanks and you'd be walking down the street on a nice summer day and everybody's cars was parked up, against the buildings there on 2nd or 3rd Avenue. And you'd hear tourists walking by and they'd say, what's with all these, are all these electric cars? They've all got cords plugging out of the front of their car. You'd be like, no, welcome to the subarctic, man. You got to plug your car in so it's warm enough to even start. I mean, that's crazy. That's the spirit, Brian. Just 23 days till spring. That's the positivity that I like, right? That's the positivity that I like. Okay. My electric bill, says Chris, is going up just so I can drive my truck. I know. The best money I ever spent was on one of those little timer boxes for your plugins. You know what I mean? The little metal timer boxes that you turn on. That was the best money I ever spent. It paid for itself the first month. I think it was not cheap. It was like $40 or $50 for this little timer box that you'd plug all your cords into. But man, it was worth it. Because then you could set it to turn on it turned on for 30 minutes every 90 minutes or something, just enough to keep it warm so it wasn't plugged in all night long. Let's see. Rick says, the National Firearms Act, 1934, signed by FDR, Democrat, taxed and regulated certain weapons. The Gun Control Act by LBJ, 1968, banned mail-order guns and sales of certain groups. Brady Handgun Act, signed by Clinton, created a national background checks. Federal assault weapons ban, 1994, signed by Clinton, banned certain semi-automatic weapons. Bipartisan Safers Community Act, 2022, yada, yada. You forgot the 1984 Firearms Owners Protection Act, signed by Reagan. And remember, George Bush W said that if they got the assault weapons ban back on their desk before it expired, he would sign it. This is not just a Democratic problem. This is a politician problem. Okay? Just remember. 5-degree Homer, says Melissa. Heat wave. It's -1 up here on top of the hill. Let's see. Besides, and not population, we're not very smart to do the job. Sector of public schools. Terry says the English are so inbred they don't have two brain cells to rub together. I can't. I don't even know. Okay, great show today, Michael. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm enjoying it so far myself, and that's really all that counts for me. As long as I'm enjoying it, I hope you do too. Frank says, I use 2 block heaters and my electric bill really goes up. How can these folks afford to recharge their electric vehicles, their electric cars? I know, right? I mean, I guess they don't have to pay for gas, so there's a trade-off there, but at some point, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I remembered what because I ran a circ pump, not a block heater. I ran a circulating heater and a battery pad and a trickle charger and an oil pad heater. And yeah, you could watch the meter spin when I plugged that thing in. Yeah, it's all good. Yay for Fridays. Let's go. Here we go.
He's strapped and taking aim. You might want to take cover. Not behind those exploding barrels. The Michael Dukes Show.
Yep. The exploding barrels, it's a bad place to hide. I never did understand that when you're watching movies and everything, and they're in some machine shop and there's, stuff everywhere, and they're like, let's hide behind these barrels of highly flammable lubricant or something, gasoline, propane tanks. Let's hide behind these these oxygen tanks. You see that sometimes in movies, and if you're, if you think like I do, you think about that. You're like, why would you duck behind that of all things? Because even if it doesn't explode like with flames, it's under pressure, and that would be bad. And anyway, welcome back to the Michael Duke. This is how my mind works, right? This is how my mind works. All right, one final segment on guns and firearms. The phone lines are open. 319-527-3864. If you want to sound off today, we'd love to hear from you. You know it's cold because I'm wearing my big, thick sweater here in the studio because there's no heat in the studio itself directly. So, it's a little chill in here. But I hope you guys are staying warm wherever you guys are and are ready to go. Before we went to break, we were just talking about jolly old England. Jolly old England. And again, people are asking the question, how are these people even an empire at one point, right? I mean, how were they one of the largest empires in the world at one point? Because, of what's going on and the mamby-pambiness in England right now. There's a political party in England called the Restore Britain Party, which by British standards, the current British standards, is considered far right. Right? And they have proposed something that has got people absolutely clutching their pearls and freaking out about. Just absolutely like, I don't know what to... they are freaking out about this. And that, of course, is they want to legalize pepper spray. Pepper, not tear gas, just capsaicin, right? Just capsaicin. They want to legalize pepper spray. They want to implement comprehensive legal protections for homeowners who are protecting themselves in their home from intruders. And they want to I was just kind of the fact that they have to, anyway, they want to repeal Scotland's Hate Crime and Public Order Act. They want to preserve trial by jury in all criminal cases, especially those involving self-defense, and more, which all seem like pretty reasonable things to me, right? But it's the legalizing pepper spray that has got people just out of bounds. Now, one of my favorite authors, his name is Larry Codrea. I don't know if you know Larry Codrea. He wrote the Hard Magic series. He's written the Monster Hunter International series. He's got the Son of the Black Sword series. He is a military/fantasy writer who is, I mean, he makes me look like I'm a liberal milquetoast kind of guy, right? I mean, but he's so funny. And he lives for conflict on Twitter and Facebook. I mean, it's just like I have his, I'm subscribed to his X feed, and I will tell you that it is 12, 15 posts a day where he's taking down somebody on something. But even he yesterday was just shaking his head, because this came out yesterday where he's just like, what is wrong with people that you feel like, in fact, let me go over here to Larry Codrea, and it's at Monster Hunter 45 if you want to go out and look at it. I can't even keep up where it is. Okay, because he had this comment. Here it is. Here's the comment on, apparently he chastised somebody hard enough that the post got deleted. But they want to remove pepper. They want to legalize pepper spray. And what is the reaction from people in England over legalizing pepper spray? They are absolutely freaking out that if they legalize pepper spray, that criminals, and specifically this woman, one of the women who tweeted on this, was saying that, I could have mine, but he could have his now and use it on me before I ever get a chance to use mine. And so we shouldn't legalize it. And that was a common refrain, that people are freaking out. They're worried about what would happen if criminals used pepper spray to commit crimes. Ignoring the ridiculousness of that statement in and of itself, you are worried that if you legalize pepper spray, criminals will then use that to commit crimes. Are you hearing yourself? Criminals will commit crimes because you legalized pepper spray. And what I will make a note that it's already illegal to rape you or rob you or molest you or assault you or murder you. All those things are already illegal, and you're worried that if somehow pepper spray gets legalized, that this criminal may then be incentivized to do the legal thing and get pepper spray to then do the illegal thing to attack you with it and rape and mug you and rob you with it. What? I mean, that's literally the common thread between a lot of these comments that you're seeing coming out of England, where people are just like, oh, we just couldn't do that. We couldn't. Now, remember, this is the place that, first of all, they outlawed guns. And then when that didn't work because criminals were still getting guns, and on top of that, criminals who couldn't get guns were using knives, then they came up with these stupid knife laws in England where, I mean, you had to do everything. And in fact, they had chefs registering their knives because the knives were over 7 inches or whatever. And so they had to have, and now they're talking about, I mean, Idris Elba and company. Where did I take it down? Damn it, I took it down. Talking about, well, now what we really need is, instead, we need not, we don't need pointy knives. Now what we need is blunted knives, because pointy knives too dangerous, but blunted knives, I mean, that's what we need. Where is this? I'm sorry. I'm obsessed with now playing this because I'm just thinking about it. How stupid this is. Like, I mean, can we not? Here it is. How stupid is this?
The truth is that kitchen knives are perhaps 25% of the knives used in most of the terrible crimes. That's one of the stats in the films. And those kitchen knives are usually a domestic situation. Okay. So kitchen knives, of course, it's very difficult. They're domestic knife. I do think there is areas of innovation that we can do with kitchen knives. I hate to say it, not all kitchen knives need to have a point on them. That sounds like a crazy thing to say, but actually it would reduce. You can still cut your food without the point on the knife, which is an innovative way to sort of look at it.
I mean, it's not like you could cut your victim with this. Oh, you could cut your food, but like most knife. I'll be honest with you, stabbing is not the most effective way to use a knife for the most part, right? It's the slashing. This is what's going on in England. The ironic part about this, and my buddy Tom Knighton over Bearing Arms makes a comment about this. He goes, he understood. He says, look, I understand that the British conquered the world looking for spices, only to decide that they didn't like any of them. But pepper spray is still basically someone taking a seasoning and aerosolizing it. It's a freaking condiment that's handy for self-defense. And it's ironic that the nation that conquered most of the world, the known world at the time, well, big part of the known world, in their attempt to look for spices, is now just rolling over and wetting. Somebody said, because somebody made a comment about this, about, what happened to England? What happened to the people? And they make a valid point that they said that their best and brightest of two generations were killed, and we're still reaping the rewards from that. In the Great War, they lost a huge component, and then they lost the next generation during World War II to the battles of a war. And there might be something to that, because this is just insane. We can't have that. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Oh, I ran right up on the clock. I ran right up on the clock on that because I was agitated by that. All right, let's see. Minus 43 at my house, says Sally. Woo. All right, let's see. There you go. There you go. Scrolling through some of the comments. All from the company that made knives illegal. I know, right? And the worst part is Idris Elba is so, he's just so forthright and earnest about it, that is going to fix it if we just take away the points.
The truth is that kitchen knives are perhaps 25% of the knives used in most of the terrible crimes. That's one of the stats in the films. And those kitchen knives are usually a domestic situation. Okay. So kitchen knives, of course, it's very difficult. They're domestic knife. I do think there is areas of innovation that we can do with kitchen knives. I hate to say it, not all kitchen knives need to have a point on them. That sounds like a crazy thing to say, but actually it would reduce.
It is a crazy.
You can still cut your food without the point on the knife, which is an innovative way to sort of look at it.
It is a crazy thing to say, man. It is a crazy thing to say. Oh, Brian sussed it out here. Pepper spray is a gateway to fully semi-automatic assault weapons. That's what it is. It's a gateway. I mean, I don't know. Wow. All right. Like you could never sharpen a blunt knife with a file. It's not like you couldn't make something stabby out of anything metal, right? Does it have to be something? It's the same rationale that the governments in England bans free speech. Some of the commoners might use that same speech against the government. Yeah. Yeah, Germany's got knife laws as well. What? Which was another thing. Okay. Most of the actions of all of Europe prove that the U.S. was correct from the beginning. We will prosper with freedom and self-reliance as a country and as individuals. I hope so, Carl. I hope it proves out that way. I believe in that mantra. But we'll see. In the UK, it is legal to carry a non-locking folding knife with a blade 3 inches or less in public without a specific reason. Carrying any other knife, including locking blades or those over 3 inches, requires a good reason, i.e. work, hobby, or religious. My religion requires me to carry a knife at all times. I don't know what religion that is, but I'll make it my religion. Yeah. We all know the story of the poop knives. We don't all know the story. Tell us the story, Brian. Tell us the story of the poop knives. That's anyway, Frank is freaking out. Fully semi-automatic? Yes. Can't you see that pepper spray is a gateway to fully semi-automatic assault weapons? That is a gateway drug. It's a gateway drug. Gun clan and proud, says Kim. Yep. The knife restriction, says Carl, are a test for further controls on society. I agree. Yeah. Yeah, my religion also, Greg, requires that I carry a firearm at all times, and a pocket knife, and at least one spare magazine, and a Leatherman tool, or a tool, multi-tool of some kind, and some rope, and a flashlight. I carry all that stuff with me all the time. Why is that so weird? Right? Don't you have a pocket full of little doodads and things? I mean, don't you have a flashlight in your pocket? Don't you have a little honk of paracord somewhere on your person? No? Do you know how useful that is? Do you know how useful it is to have all that stuff at any given time? Useful as hell, man. People used to joke when I worked at the radio station in Fairbanks. If you need something, ask Dukes. He probably has it. Because, of course, I had my Jeep outside, so not only did I have what I carried on my person, but I had my go bag or whatever. I mean, yeah, if you need it, I probably got it. Need a Band-Aid? Got it. Need some hydration stuff? Got it. Need a way to make fire? Got it. Need some paracord? Got it. I mean, come on. Yeah. It's anyway. Sorry, England. You guys, how did you conquer that part of the world? Frank, it was a joke. There's sarcasm on it. Or maybe you're being sarcastic and you're joking back. I can't tell at this point. Use your sarcasm font, Frank. If that's sarcasm, use your sarcasm font. All right. We got to go. Let's do this. Okay, are you ready for the incredibleness? Wow, that sounded really exciting. Willie Waffle comes in every week to give us the entertainment and movie review. I know some of you like it, and I know some of you hate it, but you know what? I don't care. It's my show, and I love to do it because I just love me some Willie Waffle. He's a man among men. A man, hello, my friend. How are you?
I just hope I'm glad to hear somebody likes it. Somebody out there thinks, hey, this is an entertaining way to get rolling on a Friday morning.
Yeah,
and I thank you. I thank you.
Some people are so serious. All they ever want to talk about, let's just talk about the politics. I just, sometimes I need to go into my weekend with a little bit of, a laugh or a shake my head or, looking forward to something that I can watch. That's what I need to do. So that's why we do this every week, because otherwise, I mean, might as well just stab our eyes out with a fork and call it a weekend. You know what I mean?
I'm glad I'm walking you away from the ledge.
Yeah,
I think is what I'm glad about right now.
Man, sometimes that's just the way it is. All right, well, let's get started. I guess you got some big news. You want to start us out with that?
Oh, I think we need to start with the big news. Now, this is more along the business line, but I think a lot of people have been following this and they've been hearing about it in the news. Last night, night for me, it was mid-afternoon Los Angeles time when Warner Brothers Discovery announced they are now accepting the Paramount bid to buy them.
Ooh.
They are casting Netflix aside. Now, the terms of the original agreement with Netflix was that if Paramount came up with a better deal, they would have to pay Netflix $2.8 billion to kill the deal.
Oh.
And B, Netflix gets 4 days to try to come up with a better deal, since they allowed Paramount to sweeten their deal over the last week.
A counter, right?
I'm not kidding. Like about an hour and a half later, Netflix said, "Nah, we're good. You go ahead and do your deal with Paramount, because we're paying. We made the offer that made sense for us financially. Anything else beyond that just ain't worth it to us." You know, and literally the quote was, "This was a nice to have, but not a must have." So good luck. Oh yeah. So what Paramount has done? So Paramount has gone above and beyond. They're literally buying everything of Warner Brothers Discovery. Netflix was buying like HBO Max and the Warner Brothers movie studios and their library. Paramount said, "We're going to take it all. We're going to take it all, and we're going to pay you more per share than what Warner Brothers was going to offer." So Paramount now owns all the cable channels too.
Oh wow. So this is a huge merger. Okay, all right.
This is massive. Massive. So, you know, I think that changes the math for getting the regulatory approval. Of all days, yesterday was the day that the co-CEO of Netflix, Ted Sarandos, was in Washington lobbying to get people on his side for the regulatory battle, and that's over now. So, will Paramount Skydance get a better kind of regulatory environment in which to fight? The argument is yes, that they kind of how do we put this nicely? They've made the right friends over the years.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. I bet my HBO bill goes up, though. I bet that's what's going to happen immediately.
Oh God, that's the funniest part. So like I told you, right? Like we had the announcement, then an hour and a half later, Netflix says we're dropping you. About an hour after that, I get a notification from Paramount Plus about how my subscription price is going up.
Of course it is. They got to pay. You got to pay for that takeover.
That was already. Well, that was technically already planned, but I had to laugh because I was thinking like you. Oh man, Paramount Plus is going to go through the roof now, man. We're going to be paying so much more money.
Yeah. Oh man, that's crazy. All right. Well, let's move on. Then we'll see what goes on there. Let's talk about the BAFTA thing. That just seems kind of funny to me.
This is wild. It is wild. So, you know, the BAFTA is basically the British Oscars, and last Sunday they had their big show. This is one of those precursor awards that makes people think, hey, if they won there, maybe they're going to win an Oscar. About a sixth of your Oscar voters actually also vote in the BAFTA awards, so it's usually a pretty good sign of what's going on. But that was secondary on Sunday. Oh my, on Sunday. So there's a very British movie which hasn't opened in America yet. I think it's supposed to open up in about a month or so.
Right.
It's called I Swear, and it's about this man, John Davidson. He has Tourette's syndrome, and the movie is about like his struggles and the things he's gone through. And he's become an activist over the years, and he was there because the movie was up for several awards.
Right.
And before the ceremony started, Alan Cumming, the master of ceremonies, said, "Listen, John is here tonight." And John has brought a lot of attention to Tourette's syndrome, and he sometimes can't control what he says, and we hope everybody will understand if John is what they call ticking tonight, which is what he was doing.
Right.
Oh, in a big way. So there were a couple of times during the show when he said something, but the grand finale, oh God, I feel so bad for this guy. Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, the African-American actors, and that's important to the story, the African-American actors from Sinners came out to give out an award when Mr. Davidson shouted out, "Yeah, the bad one, the N-word."
Involuntarily,
really,
okay,
really
again,
bad. Involuntarily.
He's got Tourette's.
He can't control it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was so embarrassed he
So-
actually left the auditorium right after. Yeah, because he's
Yeah.
like, I can't even. Yeah, no,
He feels horrible. But here's where the controversy starts.
right.
The whole show was taped to air later on in the evening on BBC.
Right.
And BBC didn't cut out or bleep out the word. What were they thinking?
Oh man.
What? No. That's bad enough. You know what makes it even worse?
What?
They censored other speeches. They censored a guy who made a pro-Palestinian statement during the ceremony. They bleeped him out. They cut that out. They didn't cut this out. And
Ooh.
BBC has been on its heels all week long. Eventually, they did, after like a day's worth of controversy, they edited the broadcast, but the damage is done.
Yeah.
And I mean,
That's
listen,
crazy.
I feel bad for Dave. I feel horrible for the guy. I agree with you. It's involuntary. He cannot
Yeah.
control it.
Yeah.
But BBC darn well can control what goes out on that broadcast, especially when it is taped to be aired later. Even if it's live, there's always a delay, and you have a censor button that you can use, and you can protect against those things. I feel bad for Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, who are put in the middle of all this. I mean,
Right.
It is just a mess on top of a mess.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I watch a gal on Instagram occasionally who she has Tourette's, and she is kind of chronicles her life with Tourette's, and it's horrific. She tells you, she's like, I just can't control it, literally, and it's crazy. But anyway, oh well, I guess we'll see where that goes. Let's see what else we got here. We got about 4 minutes here, so man, I want to talk about the X-Files. I want to talk about Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey and the ratings. I want to talk about it all. So quickly, give me let's do Gina and Ronda.
Okay, so Gina and Ronda, they're going back to MMA. Netflix will be airing a fight between Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano. Let's be honest, the legends of MMA, especially on the female side, on May 16th, live from LA's Intuit Dome. And this is Gina Carano, her first MMA fight since 2009, and her first true return to Hollywood since Disney fired her from The Mandalorian back in 2021.
Right.
It's also Ronda Rousey's return after she went off and was in the WWE, and she left there a few years ago, and she's been kind of kicking around. We've been wondering what's next for her. Well, Netflix said, we think we can sell this fight. We can sell Mike Tyson fighting, one of the Paul brothers. We can, we can do this, So that is happening. But yeah, Gina Carano, this is her way back in after she, they settled her lawsuit against them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the big thing is this is a Netflix deal. Somebody postulated that maybe she can get a deal with Netflix now. I mean, now that she's done with Disney, because she's a good actress, she does well. So I think it'd be interesting to see what this portends in the future here.
Absolutely. I know she's been working on some other movies that haven't really come out yet. She could probably broker a deal between Netflix and those producers to get them on there.
Absolutely.
So good for her.
Reboots of reboots. My wife kind of shook her head over this one, although the director, Ryan Coogler, who did Sinners, is the guy behind it. So that kind of makes it good. It's a reboot of The X-Files. The truth is out there.
Yeah, heading straight to Hulu. It is going to be coming out. We don't know exactly when, but they have tapped actress Danielle Deadwyler, who's a good actress. If you've ever seen her in Carry On, you've ever seen her in the movie Till, she is the real deal. And she will play one of the two FBI agents. We don't know if she's the believer or the skeptic, who have been hired to revive the long-shuttered X-Files. Will this sell as well in 2026 as it did in 1993?
I don't
know.
We watched the X-Files religiously in this house.
I did too.
It was a religion.
I did too.
We watched every episode, and so I guess we'll see. We'll see how it does, but it'll be interesting to see. That's not coming out till when?
We don't know. They're really kind of in the early stages right now. If I had to guess, I would say a year from now. That's my guess. A year from now.
All right. Quickly here, got about 90 seconds. Fall TV streaming ratings. You got some big ones on here. Hit me with the ones that surprised you.
So this is all the streaming and broadcast television. So this is mano a mano, baby, and it's what you were viewed over 35 days from your premiere. And if you were on broadcast, it includes your streaming and vice versa. Number 1 of last fall, Stranger Things season 5 on Netflix, an average of, hold on to your hats, 32.86 million viewers for every episode.
Wow.
Dwarfing everything else, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, like, just to give you a quick idea, they had their Sean Combs, Puffy Combs series at 20.64 million on Netflix. Landman on Paramount Plus was at 19.64 million. The highest broadcast show was Tracker, coming in number 4 on CBS at 16.65 million.
Wow.
Yeah, streaming is taking over, people.
Yeah. Although I'm surprised that Fallout didn't do better than it did. It came in at number 6 at 14.85.
Yeah, it was like number 6, 14.85 million. I mean, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah,
you know, and some, you know, some other CBS shows did well. Matlock, Sheriff County, Ghost was just outside the top 10. You know, but what's really interesting to me is now we're starting to see some of these broadcast programs are doing better on streaming than they are on broadcast.
Right.
Abbott Elementary on ABC did more on Hulu than it does on ABC. ABC's High Potential really was break even. They were half Hulu, half ABC.
It's
so
crazy.
it's happened. It's happened, people.
All right. Well, let's head on up to the streams in the theaters. We got about 3 minutes here, 2.5, 3 minutes. Worst to best. Give it to me.
Okay, the worst has to be The Bluff. This is the Amazon Prime Video movie of the week with Priyanka Chopra Jonas. Yes, a former notorious pirate, and I mean an R-matey, walk the plank pirate, not like a computer pirate. And she's been hiding out with her family on this island, and her old captain, played by Carl Urban, has found her. And he's pretty angry because she kind of stole a lot of gold from him, and he wants it back. You know, it's a decent thriller. It's a decent fight movie, but there's just nothing else to it. I mean, there's no great deal of plot here. There's no great writing to it. It just drags as it gets deeper and deeper. I'm at 1.5 waffles for The Bluff.
Okay. All right. That's too bad. What's next?
Yeah. Then we're in theaters with Scream 7. Yes, yet another Scream movie. And after Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega, the stars of the last 2 movies, well, one was fired and Jenna Ortega had other commitments after all that. You know, they have brought back Neve Campbell, yes, who, if you will remember, very famously was fighting with the producers over the price tag that she wanted more money to come back for the last 2 movies. They didn't want to pay it, so she didn't come back.
Right.
Well, she came back for this one because they needed her. And yes, now she's living her life in suburbia, and she has a 17-year-old daughter, and it appears someone pretending to be the Ghostface killer has shown up again. Oh, and is it someone we know or is it someone new?
Oh.
It's like a two waffle movie. You know, but if you're looking for great plot and storytelling, this is not it. This is just, we're going to run around, get chased by Ghostface. We're going to see who survives in the end. We're going to see 5 or 6 different plot twists that are more ridiculous than the last one you saw. It's just kind of there. I'm at 2 waffles.
All right. You got about 45 seconds for the final one today.
Okay.
Hit me with it.
Scrubs is back. If you were a big fan of the show, it is back on ABC and Hulu the next day, and working with his old friends again and meeting some new ones. But there's a new challenge. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. Well, I guess it's been on the air already for a couple of days. JD's running the hospital this time around, people. I'm at 2.5 waffles. I was a fan of the show in the beginning. It's basically the same show now. I think it's hard if you're new to get into it.
All right. Thanks so much. Willie Waffle, we're out of time, folks. We'll see you on Monday. All right. Willie, final thoughts here as we roll it up with you, and what are we doing next week, etc.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I was real. Okay, so the Scrubs thing is really funny because a couple weeks ago, ABC reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to see the first few episodes?" You know, and you know, but here's the list of things you can't tell anybody. And then I'm like, well, all that stuff happens in the first episode, and then nothing else matters. You know, so they spend the whole first episode catching us up and basically establishing what everybody's been doing in the years since the show went off the air, and then in the second episode, we're off and running, and we're focusing on the new kids, and we still got the old characters around. And, it's basically the same show. I'm okay with it. I enjoyed Scrubs a great deal when it was on the air the first time around. But like I said, I think it's extremely difficult to pick it up if you're brand new to it.
Yeah.
Because you'll be like, well, why is any of this important? What are all these inside jokes I don't get? So I think that would make it difficult.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm happy. I got my show back.
Right. It's one of those nostalgia runs. That's what it's all about. Just
Yeah.
the nostalgia of it instead of anything else. All right. What are we doing? What are we doing next week, my friend?
Next week, we are talking about The Bride and
Oh,
Hoppers.
The Bride. Terry is like, she is so jacked about that. It's Christian.
I kind of am too.
Christian Bale and what's the chick's name?
She's from Hamnet, and I forget her name already, but she's a very good young actress. It's basically he's Frankenstein and she is the bride.
Yeah,
my friend.
During like Prohibition, like during the Prohibition, Bonnie and Clyde kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I've seen the trailer 2 or 3 times, and it looks crazy, and I can't wait to hear more about it. So, all right, well, we'll look forward to seeing that next week, then, my friend. I hope you. What are you watching this weekend?
This weekend, oh man, that's a good question, because like I'm trying to get caught up on Paradise. If you remember, that was one of my favorite shows from last year. They're back with season 2. I saw the first episode. There's 2 more that I have to catch up on, and then they come out every Monday after that. So that's really what I'm watching is season 2 of Paradise.
Okay, all right. We'll have to get your take on season 2 next week, then, maybe just as an aside. All right, Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you coming on board. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you then.
All right, folks, we got to go.